Welcome back, everybody, to The Con Guy. This is part 2 of our 200th episode. You know, we are counting down the top 25 favorite moments from San Diego Comic-Con, and we're down to our top 10 for episode 200B or 201, whatever it is. Anyway, thanks for watching The Con Guy. DJ, roll the thing. This is The Con Guy Show. We are your home for news, opinions, and interviews from the world of Comic-Cons and fandoms. Your ultimate insiders for all things con!
Hey, 201!
201!
Or 200 part 2.
200 part
200B.
All that. It's 1701. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning back in for part 2 of our 200th episode celebration here at The Con Guy. We are counting down our top 25 favorite moments from San Diego Comic-Con.
Top Con.
Again, that's why we're wearing our bombers and our sunglasses. So we're down to our top 10 favorite moments from San Diego Comic-Con. Guys, what do we have in store? What are we getting to? Jim, can you start us off with our number 10 countdown moment for our favorite San Diego Comic-Con?
I will start.
Experiences.
Number 10. There was a moment in 2018, San Diego Comic-Con on Wednesday night. They had a special night for like horror movies. What was it? It was San Diego Comic, like Scary Con or something like that. They had a special name they had for Wednesday night. It was out at a theater offsite, and Jamie Lee Curtis shows up to promote the 2018 Halloween. It was an amazing time. Wait. I am wrong. They did have it on Wednesday, but Jamie Lee Curtis was actually in Hall H when this was happening because we taped this. We have this on our YouTube channel where Jamie Lee Curtis was up there. She was promoting Halloween 2018, and a gentleman stepped up to ask her a question. And he was he was a large, burly man. He wasn't like, somebody. Anyways, he was a large guy, and he asked the question. His question was, I just want to tell you, thank you so much, Jamie Lee Curtis, for this character you portrayed. And he talked about a time in his past when he was having somebody break into his house. He thought he was going to lose his life. And some people can laugh at this, but I thought it was so touching when he goes, I thought about what Laurie Strode would have done in this moment. And she stands strong, and she fought, and the man who was telling the story, he just started crying and saying, your character in this movie gives me strength. Jamie Lee Curtis stopped. And who was the lady? I mean, the moderator. She's on Community. She's
Nicole Yvette Brown.
Yes, that was her. And she goes, because Jamie Lee Curtis says, stop a second. She gets up off the panel. She's up on the stage and walks down into the audience, grabs this guy, hugs him. They cry together, pull him off to the side, and Nicole Yvette Brown goes, y'all, we're having church in here.
That sounds like Yvette Nicole Brown. She's not going to mind for people to hug. And
it was so cool. And it went on for like 5 to 7 minutes. And then Jamie Lee Curtis gets back up on the stage and goes, you know what? This is what it's all about. We're here for each other. And we posted that video on our YouTube page, and like within a couple of days, it had 30,000 people commenting on it and looking at it. It just went viral for one reason. It was a real moment. That was not a rehearsed moment. It was completely off the cuff. It was this guy. He in this past, he heard about something, and Jamie Lee Curtis connected with him because of a character she played. I loved it. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. That was an amazing moment.
Yeah, and again, that's what we love about Comic-Con, is coming together around things that we love, and also just the power of storytelling.
Yeah,
like people learn lessons from characters in stories. Sometimes it helps us to have a chance to experience something through another situation, even something fictional, to help us kind of imagine that situation, and then if we're ever in it, we're better prepared for it if it does happen to us. Like that guy right there, like he was able to actually fight and defend himself.
Yeah.
And who knows, like if he hadn't seen those movies and this fictional story, as ridiculous as we might think that fictional story is, it helped motivate him to fight and be alive later.
Yeah.
To tell that story.
And it wasn't like he had to go out with an axe like Laurie Strode and fight off Michael Myers, but he was like, you know what? I'm not a weakling. I'm not a guy who's going to crawl into a hole when a situation presents itself. I have some strength.
Yeah.
I have strength
And
of
it's
character.
the stories we tell matter. Like they help shape
Yeah,
culture.
they
They
do.
help shape the psychology of the people who are watching those stories. And it really, like, a lot of lessons can be gained when good stories
Yep.
are told.
I think that's the thing, and that's what popular culture, that's what geek and nerd culture and San Diego Comic-Con is all about. You look at movies, you look at TV shows, comic books, even role-playing games like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. All of it is storytelling. And storytelling is so key to humanity and the evolution of human society and how we learn and how we deal with things. That's one of the things that I always go back to as an actor and as a comedian and a writer, is that storytelling is at the core of our species. And it is how we live our lives. And even if you just remember something that happened to you yesterday and you're telling somebody about it, that's a story, you know, and that's how we learn and, you know, grow.
And that's also how comic books and things like Comic-Con have been able to take hold. We want heroes. We want people who are going to stand up for what's right against what's wrong, who are going to put themselves at risk, whether or not they have special abilities, you know, who are going to go and take some kind of stand and just do the right thing. And yeah, it's great to have relatable heroes, but aspirational heroes are also important. And it's tough, but it's great when writers can find that balance of a hero who's both relatable and aspirational, who can motivate us and say, you know what, I can go do this too.
Inspire
I can take
me.
a stand. I can do the right
Yes.
thing. I can fight for my survival. I can fight for the weak and the oppressed and the innocent against, you know, some evil force, whatever that might mean. And that's why these stories are important. That's why we love comics. That's why we go to Comic-Con.
Oh, that's awesome. Number 9, Katie.
So my top 2 moment, because we're in the top 2 now of each of ours, is actually a precursor to the con guy, but I can't not mention this one because it will always go down as one of my personal top Comic-Con moments. And Derek was also there. It was for the Doctor Who 50th anniversary panel in 2013.
Great memories.
Where we both camped out. I think we got in line at 5 p.m. At least I got in line at 5 p.m. the day prior because they didn't.
Oh, you guys be crazy.
They didn't do wristbands at this point. It was first come, first served. You couldn't leave the line and come back like you can now. So that, and also I didn't have a hotel room that year, so it was like, well, okay, where else am I going to sleep? So I'm going to sleep on the floor.
Save some money.
And to be fair, those were probably the cheapest cons that I went to, or the first 2 years. I think Doctor Who panel was at like 12 or 1 o'clock. It was
Something like that.
in the afternoon. So we sat through Sons of Anarchy, Supernatural. I don't know. It was.
I can't remember.
There were 3 things.
I think Breaking Bad.
Oh, Breaking Bad.
Because there was the one where Bryan Cranston actually had a Walter White mask and surprised
correct.
everybody. I think I was in the bathroom.
He
when that
was
happened.
walking around on the convention floor in that mask.
Yeah, and then he showed up at the Hall H panel in that mask and then took it off and revealed. But I think that was the same time, and that was like shortly before the Doctor Who panel.
It might not have been Sons of Anarchy, but it was Supernatural. I think there was Supernatural still that year, right? I can't remember. It might have been the one year they weren't there. Anyway, there was 3 panels. I remember Breaking Bad. It was before the end of Breaking Bad, and I hadn't watched Breaking Bad at that point, so I was just kind of half paying attention.
Yeah, me too.
And then I think it was right before the panel. We were going on 15 hours waiting for this particular panel, maybe more. And I think, I don't even know if I looked at Derek or if it was someone else, but I literally was sitting there and I don't know if this is going to be worth it. So I was so tired. And then the lights go off and 3,000 plus sonic screwdrivers went up into the air.
That was amazing.
And that moment, I completely took back everything I said earlier about it not being worth it.
And do you remember the people clapping too?
Yeah.
With the 4 heartbeats, also the rhythm of the opening music. Yeah.
And it was a
Ben's
great.
getting into this too.
And of course, the biggest thing at that point was we didn't know who for sure was going to make an appearance at this panel. They did not announce it in the program. So everybody was like, is Matt Smith going to be there? We figured out Matt Smith was going to be there because he had a panel earlier in the year, earlier in the con, which I actually stumbled into. It was the Brave New Warriors panel. And I was like, Matt Smith is in it. I'm just going to show up. So we knew he was there. But the biggest question was like, who else is going to be there? And it was a very, I don't even really have words for it. But we were all kind of on the highest nerd adrenaline rush that I think.
Who was there?
Stephen Moffat was there. I remember him talking about writing the 50th anniversary special because it wasn't fully written yet at the time.
And Clara was there.
Jenna Coleman? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of more just celebrating Doctor Who's 50 years prior because they couldn't really tell us much. But that wasn't the point. At that point in my life, that was the nerdiest place I had ever been. Seeing 3,000 sonic screwdrivers all go up in unison, like awesome. It was really cool.
Derek, number 8.
Oh, let's see. Actually, this I'm pretty sure was the same year. So the one Nerd HQ panel that I got into, a friend actually was able to get the tickets and said, "Hey, I have a couple of these. I'm not going to be able to go. Do you want to use them?" So I took another like friend of a friend or somebody, and we went. And it was Richard Madden, Robb Stark from Game of Thrones, also Prince Charming in the Cinderella live action remake. And so it was just, the Nerd HQ style was just Zach Levi hosting, asking a lot of audience questions. And I got to, mention that I'd lived in Scotland and about, I'm glad you're here real so I can reassure my sister who was sobbing after the red wedding. And but then the crazy thing was right in the middle of the panel, the door on stage burst open and in jumped Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman. Just suddenly showing up. I think Jenna Coleman and Richard Madden were dating at the time. But yeah, so then it became a panel with all three of them with all the fan questions and it was a much more intimate setting. Like that little theater, I think this was at Petco. It might have been maybe 50 or 60 people that fit in that space.
And they called them a conversation.
Yeah, it was more a conversation. It was not like the big panels, and that's why they were hard to get into because they'd post it and you'd pay $20 to get a ticket to the panel and it would be a donation to Operation Smile, which was a great thing that Nerd HQ was doing.
Right.
Anyway, that's one of those things I'll probably never forget is just that moment when they jumped on stage and they both had these huge grins on their faces because it was like, surprise, more of us are here. And the whole crowd, all 60 people were cheering. Yeah.
Jeez.
Number 7.
Number 7, Comic-Con Special Edition. So this was special for me because I got to be on my first panel. It was a little bit of a smaller con. 2021, unfortunately, didn't happen for the summer people. So it kind of went back to kind of its roots of being a smaller, more comic-based con. And we went down with a group of friends that hadn't really experienced it. So that was fun, taking our friend Charlie Hoover and Johnny Tang down. And we also ran into and made a good friend, Bill Marcelli, down there. We already knew him through some stuff, but we became Tiki friends through a Tiki panel down there and checked out some Tiki bars. But being on my first panel was probably the most exciting. That's my number 7 moment, which was the importance of online branding and professionalism. Thank you, Topher Davila, for inviting me to be on that. We had full-time how to have a full-time career and a full-time creative career. How to have a full-time creative career on a part-time schedule right after it, which Jim, the con guy, was on. So that was just fun that they still did it, and that meant a lot. And to be on my first panel and get my little thing in front of me that said Luke Cheeseman with the little Comic-Con logo on it, and it had the little special edition.
That was very cool that you got to do it that year. We did meet Bill, and Bill Marcelli is one of our friends. He's a great screenwriter.
Wow. He love that guy.
Isn't he amazing? Mm-hmm. Bill Marcelli, he wrote Deja Vu. He has some other projects in the works right now, but that's when we became Tiki friends. We were at this, like Luke was telling you, we were at this Tiki panel, and I won the contest and won this amazing Tiki mug with the Universal Monsters on it. It's amazing. It's probably worth like $150, $200. Mm-hmm. Bill still is bitter at me for that. But we went out to a Tiki bar afterwards. Carrie Lane was with us. We all went out. Charlie was with us, and it was a great time. It kind of birthed our other podcast called the Tiki Freaks. If you guys ever get a chance, I'm throwing a little shameless plug in there. But anyways, that was cool, and it was Luke's very first panel. Woohoo! Awesome.
By the way, Tiki Freaks is part of the Con Guy family of podcasts.
Yes.
So that's not a shameless plug. That's just cross promotion. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's a real plug.
Yeah.
All right. as you can see, we're kind of sitting at a tiki bar, so it's a little bit of
Indeed.
a promotion. Anyway, Cheeseman, that was a good time. It was a good time.
All right, so we're moving on to number 5. No, number 6. I'm sorry, number 6. We're about to go into our top 5.
Yes.
Number 6. So I'm going to combine a couple together again, like I have been. And these both predate the Con Guy show. And so that's why I'm putting them together, because they're two major moments that I got super excited about. But again, it was before the show started. In 2013, we had the Batman v Superman reveal, which was incredible. I remember watching it online. I wasn't at the panel, but I had been to the convention, and then I watched the video online later, and they put, I just remember them putting the Superman logo, the Zack Snyder, Henry Cavill, Man of Steel Superman logo up on the screen. And then this cool bat symbol comes fading in behind it. Just this Frank Miller-esque bat symbol. And the crowd went nuts. Now,
I was on the floor and I just heard this giant roar. I was like, oh, something big just happened.
Something big happened. And we can say what we will about the movie. I didn't particularly enjoy Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I'm a huge Batman fan, as all of you Con Guy fans out there know.
And by the way, like anything you might say negative about the movie, I do think both those actors played those parts really well.
For all its faults, the Zack Snyder DC universe of films, the casting was almost, I would say absolutely perfect. Like, if nothing in this world is perfect, that was as close as it can get. And then also, I'm going to lump in with that another reveal that happened prior to the start of our show, which was the Deadpool trailer release. When they first released the footage to Deadpool, it was leaked, I believe, during Comic-Con, wasn't it? Yeah. That was the first one of that whole car chase fight scene where Ryan Reynolds was playing Deadpool. And that is what launched what has become such a huge part, one of the most successful X-Men movies ever made.
It is
It was leaked.
Well, yeah, it was quote unquote leaked.
No, it is the most successful X-Men movie to date.
Yeah. And it I mean, this is all hearsay, and we have to say, for legal purposes, this is all rumor. But the idea behind it is that it wasn't actually leaked. It was filmed on purpose. Obviously, it was filmed on purpose, but then quote unquote leaked out to the public. It was supposed to be a private screening thing, and then the public got a hold of it, and of course, everybody loved it, and that's how we got the Deadpool movies that we have today, and now incorporating that into the MCU, which is, I think, really awesome.
So are we ready for our top 5?
Yeah.
Top five.
Jim, what do you got for us?
All right, my number 5, which is my number 1. I don't know how you get bigger than this moment in San Diego Comic-Con history, but I'm pulling two of them together. I was not there in 1976 when San Diego Comic-Con screened Star Wars. They screened this little movie called Star Wars. It was weird. They were in they're at the El Cortez Hotel. They pulled up in the olden days, they pulled up like a screen, like a movie screen, a portable one, and they showed it. Somebody had like a projector in the back of the room, and you saw Star Wars. And I think they didn't have the music with it at that time, but the buzz was so gigantic coming out of there. Everybody across the country, all the press that were there started talking about. So that happened in 76. 2015, The Force Awakens is the brand new movie coming out. Disney had just purchased, a couple of years prior, had just purchased Lucasfilm, the brand new movie with the original Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, the 3 actors were going to be in a brand new movie coming out. We went to Hall H. We saw this most amazing panel where they were there, the 3 new actors, J.J. Abrams, BB-8 comes rolling across the panel. That was all cool. But the grand finale of this, I'm sorry, Kevin Smith, that this happened to you. But at the end of the Star Wars panel, Chris Hardwick says, everybody stand up in your seats and follow the stormtroopers out. We have a special treat for you. They led us out to the band shell out behind the convention center. All 6,500 of us. Kevin Smith shows up in his panel afterwards, and there's nobody in the room. Again, sorry, Kevin
Smith.
But he understood because he's the biggest Star Wars fan.
He's a huge Star Wars
And so
fan.
we all go out to the band shell, and there is a concert, a Star Wars concert. John Williams addressed us via video, but then Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Han Solo. I think it was Han Solo.
Sure.
And, Harrison Ford standing on the stage with J.J. Abrams. The music starts playing. They give everybody in the audience a big light up lightsaber. And then over our heads, over the bay, a giant fireworks show starts going off. It was the biggest moment, I guess, in my geek history. I can't imagine a bigger moment than that. I can't imagine a bigger. It's not just great because it was big, but that helped. It was gigantic. But my childhood had come back to visit me at that moment. I grew up with Star Wars. I became a screenwriter in Hollywood because of Star Wars. And I'm sitting at San Diego Comic-Con with the holy trinity of Star Wars sitting on the stage with J.J. Abrams, with John Williams music, fireworks, and I'm swinging my lightsaber back and forth. I will forever remember that moment, and it is forever emblazoned in my heart.
I also did not go to that panel. Me and my roommate were in line late that night before to get wristbands to go to Star Wars, and due to miscommunication, we had heard that they had run out of wristbands. So we're like, well, we're going to get out of line. There's no way we're getting into this panel. So we got out of line, only to find out later that that was not true. We would have gotten wristbands. So we were like, okay, whatever, we'll do something else. But because I did not go to Hall H that day, I went to Nerd HQ and met Nathan Fillion.
Oh,
so I'm still really
Your
happy.
now husband.
So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like that's awesome. But my number, this is also a good segue to my biggest Comic-Con moments. I'm going to loop them together. I believe they were both in 2019, and one of them might have been in 2018. 2019 was my best Comic-Con. It was I don't even know that it will ever be touched in this particular sense. So the first one, meet and greet, that will always be really special to me at Comic-Con was George Takei wrote a graphic novel about his time in the Japanese American concentration camps. If you guys are not familiar with the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. Please look into it. You can even comment or whatnot. I can give you resources. But he wrote a graphic novel that was about his time there, and I found out about it, and I wanted to meet him and share my family's story with him, because I am the granddaughter of two people who were in the camps.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was really special to me and important to me to give thanks to the man who is helping educate people about this really dark time in our American history. And so I went through the line. I do have a video. I will try to share it. My roommate was right behind me. I was in line, could not have my photo, but she was behind me and videotaped the whole thing. And so I went through the line and was able to tell him, I was like, hey, like, George, just want to let you know, like, my grandparents were in the camps, and I really appreciate you sharing your story. And of course, we had an exchange where he was like, oh, what camps were they in? And basically had like a short little dialogue, but it was probably one of the most meaningful meet and greets you can have with a person.
It's called They Called Us Enemy.
Yeah, They Called Us Enemy. Oh, expanded edition. I don't know what that one is. I'm gonna have to look that up later. But yeah, it's called They Called Us Enemy. And it's it goes back to his story in the camps, but also talks about the importance of not erasing history and why it's important to teach people, and the parallels that came into our future because of it.
It won an Eisner Award.
Yeah, so check it out. That was one of my best moments. And then also, I know Jim would absolutely be upset if I did not share this story.
You got to talk. This is one of the best ever.
In 2019, we were at the one of the parties that we go to. That we've had Bernie on the show before. It was his party, and the night prior, I was so tired. I went straight to my hotel and was like, I'm gonna sleep. And Luke and Jim met Jared Padalecki at this party, and
AKA,
they texted me.
Who is he?
Sam Winchester.
Sam Winchester,
Yeah. Well, I guess some of you know him from Gilmore Girls. But they
both.
Yeah.
Both is good.
Yeah.
Walker, Texas Ranger now.
So they I think I woke up to like text messages where they're like, where are you? Like, why aren't you here? She's sleeping. And we'll share it on social media, but it's on our YouTube. where they got him to make a video for me, being like, "Why aren't you here?" Da, da, da. And anyway,
Jared Padalecki was saying, Katie,
yeah.
what are you doing? Why are you not here?
So
Using some colorful language.
Yes, he was.
Exactly. I mean, it's Comic-Con and it's a party. And so thanks to them and Brad, like they got me this video. And I was like, I woke up, of course, like super bummed that I missed out on meeting Jared. But then the next night we went to the second party and he made another appearance. And from then on, I was actually able to meet him. Very, very under the influence of some alcohol on all.
Wait,
of our
I gotta
parts.
stop. Jared Padalecki was so excited that Katie showed up the next night because he remembered from the previous night there was this girl who she was too tired and she wouldn't show up, and then the next night we said, "That's Katie." He goes, "Katie's here." He was so excited to see you. It was so great.
Yeah, so that will obviously go down in history moments in my life, not just Comic-Con. And I think that's why for me,
Your now husband.
I mean, that's a little of the, I don't
like-
think his wife would like that. But,
Don't care.
so that's why to me, like, and at this point, I didn't know if I was going to get to go to another Comic-Con because my way of going to Comic-Con was lapsed at that point, I thought. So it was like, I think that was my swan song. So number one, we will share the link if we do not share the video, but it's on our YouTube channel.
Number 3.
Derek, number 3.
Okay, so we're narrowing it down here. I have to say my top memories from Comic-Con are from 2022 when we took our foster sons. And I mean, some of the best memories with them specifically was when we did some family cosplay of the Princess Bride. We had them be Inigo,
That's right.
Wesley as the Man in Black,
Yeah.
and Fezzik. And then Lara and I were Miracle Max and Valerie.
Loved it.
It was pretty fun.
I'm not a witch. I'm your wife.
Yeah, and she is. But also just being there with the boys, being able to take kids with us. Because we had a stroller packed with goods, we couldn't fold up the stroller and leave it somewhere, which meant we couldn't go into any panels in the convention center. So the one panel we went to was in the library, and it was the one that Ben was on, which was a panel about raising con kids.
Oh, that's so
Which,
great.
that was a great experience. But taking them around on the floor, seeing people in those T-Rex costumes that were printed as like Spider-Man and Venom, and just dancing with them, which at the time he was about 2. He was able to tell the story later, like, "Oh, what did we do there?" And he was like, "That's with dinosaurs." And then on the bus, I was in a Spider-Man get up on another day, and he was like, "That's Spider-Man," which, I'm never going to forget hearing that little voice think that I'm actually a superhero.
That's special. I love that. 5,
Mhm.
4, 3, 2.
All right, number 2. All right, I keep talking about myself, and I love it. I'm just kidding, or am I? I don't know. I'm so confused right now. But one of my favorite things to do at Comic-Con is to go to the Adult Swim panels. They're such lively panels. It's kind of like our show, how we just kind of are goofing around, poking at each other. Because a lot of times you go to panels and it's just so formal. They can't say much. Maybe they'll show you a little teaser, but then I can't tell you who my character is. It's a mystery, meh. But when you go to the Adult Swim stuff, it's just always just the goofiest stuff you'll ever see. And one of my favorite ones was going to the Robot Chicken panel. And then, like Jim mentioned earlier, sometimes the drink of choice was a Long Island iced tea. So we got a little jolly before we went up there. And then I decided I was going to ask a question. So I went up and talked to Seth Green and Brecken Meyer. That was a much fitter version of myself, or at least more petite, I'd say. I don't know about fitter, but more petite. Go up there in my brand new Con Guy shirt to ask a question, and then they try to get me to take my shirt off. Roll the clip.
Go back to the con guy. Hello, good. This con just got sexy. Seems hot here. Lose the shirt. Who cares? Just
Roll it again.
seems hot here. Lose the shirt. Who cares?
But yeah, that was such a funny moment. Just it was cool I mean, I really wanted to know which Batman they liked the best, and I think they answered the question great. But it was funny how I got to do a little banter as the con guy, and then shortly after, why I was still feeling jolly from those Long Islands is when we found out that we were going to get into the Star Wars panel. So it was a good day. It was a top 10 day.
That was such an epic day. I remember sitting there in the audience, and Luke was, like he says, a bit jolly. Jolly's the word. And Luke's standing there. You guys have been in the Indigo Ballroom, right? Where it holds like 1,100 people. It's a giant room. And he's standing there at the microphone. Breckenmeyer, Seth Green, and one of the other guys on there. And he just walks up to the microphone, and it was Breckenmeyer looks at him. Well, you probably saw in the video. A con guy, take that shirt off, sexy con guy. It was funny. It was such a good moment. And then asking about who's the best Batman, and of course they all agree it's Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton,
and
of course.
It goes without saying. But that was a good day. And then there was just such a good day, epic day. Number one in no particular order, but number one
in no particular order. So
You've got a lot on that paper still. How are you gonna choose?
don't worry
one?
about it. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So for me, I'm gonna once again combine
Mhm.
the year of 2022
Ooh.
into an epic number one moment for the
Mhm.
con guys' special memories of San Diego Comic-Con.
I know where he's going. I love it.
So not only did I finally buy a vintage Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Megazord playset, which I had wanted since I was 9 years old,
Mhm.
not only did Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves have an epic offsite
Yep.
at San Diego Comic-Con,
Yep.
which was amazing,
Including free alcohol.
including free alcohol. Not only did my wife tech call the Berserker panel in Hall H with Boom Studios and Keanu Reeves.
Mm,
Tech call means she helped to run that panel.
Yeah.
Okay.
She didn't help.
She ran that panel.
She ran.
Ran the panel.
But I think probably the number one moment in con guy history of San Diego Comic-Con is that 2022, the year it came back from the dead, was the year we did our first live in-person Power Rangers panel at San Diego Comic-Con. And it was incredible, not to mention a surprise guest appearance from one Mr. Walter Jones.
Yes.
Let's roll a little video. Let's roll it.
Oh, Walter! There's a cheer for you!
How did you get younger? I swear to God. How did you get younger? Yeah, dude.
Alice and Robert have been unseated as the most legendary Rangers. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him as the original Black Ranger.
Hey, now there's 10 of us like Dino Shark.
And he keeps getting younger. He's most legendary and gets younger.
No.
Somebody told me there ain't no party like a Power Ranger party because a Power Ranger party don't stop.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, she's, he's, and theys of all kinds. That is why that is one of, if not the most epic moment of the con guy and San Diego Comic-Con coming together. It was incredible. And for me to be able to, just me as an actor, writer, performer, and a Power Rangers fan since the age of 9 when it came out, to be able to stand up there and listen, I was an original Power Rangers, 93 to 95 or so fan. That's when I was watching it. So I had to educate myself on the other actors that we had on the panel. But then for Walter Jones to come like dancing in there,
It was awesome.
it blew my mind. And it was such an honor and a privilege to be able to do that. And I have no further to look on who to thank than these people right here and our friend Brad for bringing the Con Guy and Power Rangers together. And it was such an epic moment. And then we did another one the next year in 2023
for the 30th anniversary of the Power Rangers.
For the 30th anniversary. And Walter Jones was on that one too.
And that one was very challenging because of the actor strike.
Yeah, the actor strike was going on, but we still had 10, 11 Power Rangers
Yeah.
on our panel.
And 1,100 people in the panel.
Yeah. Also, during the 2022 panel, I was sitting in the back because, I was like, I don't need to be in the front.
She
I'll
didn't want to be
sit back.
seen with us.
And there was some small kids who I don't know if they were sitting behind us or whatnot, but you could tell that they could not see very well. And so I remember I was like, hey, you guys just like come over here and sit, and I'll sit. I think I just walked around on the back. Like, you're not allowed to stand in the back, but I was just like back. But this kid, he stood on his chair to see the panel. And then as soon as Walter Jones came up, you could just see his face light up. I think he might have been dressed as the Black Ranger too. I don't actually know if I ever told you that story, but yeah, like you.
I have never heard this story until now.
I just saw him like standing on his chair with his sister, and then Walter Jones came up, and you could just see the delight on his face. So
the last 10 minutes of this show is going to be me openly weeping. No. Oh man. So that being said, those are our top 25 moments over 2 episodes of our favorite moments or most memorable moments of San Diego Comic-Con. Here at the Con Guys show.
Can I just say one more moment about this? I got to say, all those years ago, when we said, hey, let's just start a website, a little bitty website. And then 7.5 years later, we're sitting in a room at San Diego Comic-Con, 1,100 people, all the Power Rangers up there, and just cheers. And I never would have imagined that. But I'm gonna cry here because it was so special. That was such a special moment of where we've come in 8 years, and all of us do this not because of all those big bucks we're raking in, but
yeah, just FYI for all of you out there, we make zero money from this show.
Kind of less than that.
It does. It costs us money to make this show. Now, we'd love it if we could work this thing into something where we could do this as like a job or something. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But
deep pocket fans.
Yeah.
But we do it because we love it. We do it because we want to help get information out there for people who are going to conventions, who are new to conventions, who are getting ready for San Diego Comic-Con specifically, talking about particular great panels, highlighting stuff, helping people prepare. I mean, we've got a lot of good reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Without making any money.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing.
And conventions aren't cheap.
Listen, if this was my full-time job, because I edit this show too. And Luke does a whole bunch of tech on this as well. So if this was my full-time job, you know how much content you guys would be getting, quality content.
And we couldn't afford him if that was the case.
No, that's true. We've covered our top 25 favorite moments from Comic-Con. What about our favorite moments from our last 200 episodes of this show? Jim, tell us, these aren't in any particular order, but what's one of your favorite moments from our 200 episodes of being the Con Guy? And mind you, that does not include mini-sodes or some interviews or the Scare Guy or any of these other things. Like, we've done way more than 200 episodes overall, but that's just specifically episodes of the Con Guy.
Yeah.
What is one of your favorite moments, Jim?
One of my favorite moments, I have two special memories. One, the feeling of family here.
But what's real is family.
That we have on this group. And we used to go out to Casa Vega like after every show on Monday nights. And that was a special time for me. I know we're probably not going to get back to that for 2 reasons. One, we're not taping in that studio anymore. And 2, Casa Vega is so expensive at nighttime now. But like, we used to get the happy hour special, but so many special moments, and just mainly just these folks here in the show have become family. These events have become family. If you had to impress me, I love the fact we had Josh Miller on for Sonic and for Violent Night. And he's so cool, and he's like one of us. He's a con guy. I love that. So
Josh Miller, friend of the show, one of our honorary con guys.
Super nice guy and a really good writer, because I
great writer.
Love Sonic and Violent Night.
Like
both Sonics.
Violent Night.
Violent Night was so good.
That's right.
And Derek's best friend, and also not to like go off on a rabbit trail here, but another big fan of the show and a great honorary con guy, David Boer.
Yeah.
David Boer.
David Boer.
We wouldn't know him without the show.
Yes.
Just to bring up honorary con guy members, but
last and I'm hogging the show, but I'm going to say one of my favorite show moments bleeds over into one of my favorite con moments. We had David on the show talking about Kanto, his new comic that he's writing.
He wrote it. It's done.
Yeah.
It's done. We're finishing it. But it's been 5 years in the making. But when it first debuted, I remember at San Diego Comic-Con, me and Luke, we had a writing manager, Rick Bond. Love that guy. I was in a panel. Luke was doing something. We couldn't make it out to David Boer, who was debuting his brand new comic. And Rick Bond went there. And the line for David Boer's comic was around the convention center. It was the biggest premiere of that year, and Rick Bond got in line and waited for like an hour, got up finally and said, "This is for Jim and Luke." And Dave was like, "You should have just come and told me. I would let you up in front." I was like, "Yes." God rest his soul, Rick has passed on, and I love that man. But it was just a special moment where our manager who we went to Comic-Con with, went and saw David Boer and saw this giant line, and David Boer is now doing so well. He doesn't talk to us because he's too big for us now. I'm kidding. He's coming on the show.
Yeah, we just hung out with him at Lobby.
David Boer's one of the best people we know.
D-Boo, we love you.
Also, David is a LGBTQ writer, a comic writer. So if being Pride, if anybody, even if this airs after you're listening to this after Pride, if you guys are looking for a creator that you want to support, definitely check out his stuff.
What's his big book?
He also has Killer
Queens, yes,
which is a completely LGBTQ story. It's about drag queens in space, I believe is the best way to say it.
It's the funniest thing. It's
hard to explain. But yeah, so definitely check that out if you guys are interested.
He's also writing Ghostbusters and Specs. And he's doing a new Godzilla book, which I'm so excited about.
Nice.
All right.
Are we allowed to say that on the show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want some good stuff, David Boer, he's one of our favorite people. Go check those out.
Cool. My turn, huh? All right. So my biggest moment in our Con Guy run is actually from our sister network, The Scare Guy. So I know we're celebrating the Con Guy, but I cannot go without mentioning this. During the pandemic, obviously, we had to alter how we did our show. That's when we started doing Zoom, everything, because we wanted to still give content. We still wanted to meet up together in whatever means we're able to at the time. As difficult as it was, we got some really cool opportunities in that time because no one was going anywhere. So it was a little bit easier to have people come in from a remote place. And we got the opportunity. It was the three of us. I think it was Jim, Luke, and I got to interview Greg Nicotero about Creepshow Season 2. And as the horror fan that I am and as they are, it was definitely the highlight that we've had. And he had just so much fun stories to tell us about his experience working on both Creepshow and Walking Dead. And I think we even mentioned Horror Nights a little bit that as well.
And Jaws.
So it was just, it'll always go down in like hey, I may not have met him in person for this interview, but I did get to be there to interview him.
Katie, what was he like?
Fantastic.
He's so nice.
He's so kind and so passionate about what he does. And I don't think any horror fan would be upset about any of it.
Check out Creepshow on Shudder. He's done a few seasons of it. It's a great TV series.
And that show is also on our Con Guy YouTube.
Yep.
Derek, how about a favorite moment from you, man?
Oh man, there have been tons. One of them I think you're going to talk about, so I'll let you do that. But we've talked about a lot of favorite guests.
It's not favorite. It's most memorable.
A favorite guest, though, was when we had Naomi Grossman on the podcast from American Horror Story.
Yep.
She was first in the second season, which I was also in as background. So I loved referring to her as a former castmate.
You were in season 2.
I was in season 2. If you
season 4.
You can actually pause it for if you pause it at just the right moment, you can actually see my face very clearly. It's the one background gig that I had where you can actually see my face.
I can go back and watch that now.
Yeah, it's the one where you find out the origin of the killer, Bloodyface. I helped create a serial killer. You're welcome.
Nice.
But yeah, it was really fun having her on and chatting about that stuff and having just a little bit of banter, acting like I was an actor on the show. Because in a way I was, but not really. Also,
Technically,
she was just really cool.
listen, you were paid to be an actor on the show.
That's true.
You-
I was a professional actor on American Horror Story
There you
season
go.
2. Mm-hmm.
Naomi Grossman is
Season
a she's been over to my house before for parties and whatnot.
Mhm.
She's great. She's
really
got
cool.
so much energy to her, and she's a fantastic person.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of awesome guests we've had, are you going to say more about that?
No.
Okay,
please.
so I'm just going to do shout out to Jay Underwood too.
Yes, yes.
The Boy Who Could Fly, Sonny Bono, and The Beat Goes On, the Sonny and Cher story, the original Human Torch in the unreleased Fantastic Four.
30th anniversary of the unreleased
yeah,
Fantastic
that's
Four.
this year, by the way. I'm not saying you should go out and pirate stuff.
Roger
but
Corman.
if you can find that,
It's on YouTube.
It
and
was
watch
never released, man. You can go pirate it if you want. It's not like
there you go. You're not ripping anybody off. You're
Nope.
only supporting good creativity and solid actors who never got the recognition they should have.
That's right.
Anyway, but it was great having him on. I mean, besides the fact that he's also my pastor now. Yeah.
He's a church guy now. That's
I
crazy.
know, right?
I love that.
Yeah, they say you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. Sometimes superheroes just get saved and become pastors. But also we had him on again to talk about foster care and adoption and how that's represented in popular media, including things where it's not obviously about foster care, but things like The Mandalorian, where that's foster care and adoption. And then so many other stories, like lots of great heroes were, adopted.
Ripley and Newt.
What?
Ripley and Newt.
Yes.
Aliens.
Mhm.
That was her-
Exactly.
Yep.
And
So-
we
so
get
many
like
stories.
so many superheroes have that kind of origin, and it was great having Jay on to talk about that because he and his wife have fostered and adopted 3 of their 6 kids. Yeah. So anyway,
Can I just say the thing I appreciate about Jay is he's not to get preachy,
Mhm.
but he's a guy who lives what he believes, and he talks about it's important if there's kids in foster care that need your help, and he went out and he adopted 3 of them. Good for Jay. I just have mad respect for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I've talked about foster care a little bit before on here, but I'll plug it again. There are great websites. Like if you do a little search about how to get involved, there are lots of ways you can find out. Fosterall.org or advokids.org. Both have a lot of good information.
ADVO.
Yeah, Advo, like advocate, but Advo
Those
Kids,
sites will be
KIDS.
here
.org.
on
There
the
you go.
screen, and then they'll also be in the description.
Yeah, if you want to get into becoming a foster or resource parent yourself, or if you just want to do things like respite care or just support kids in care or support foster families, both Advo Kids and Foster All have a lot of information. Foster All is focused more in the LA area, and they connected us with the foster agency that we started with. But there's a lot of stuff out there that you can do, even if you don't feel prepared to be a foster parent yourself. Or maybe you do. You might start looking into it and realize that you actually can do more than you thought. But I'll always be happy to plug that.
Derek and Laura, foster parent superheroes. That's all I got to say. All right. We are down
how do
to.
you follow that, man? Like, I'm not going to. Cheese, you give us your most memorable moment from the show.
All right. Well, it's very hard to narrow, as we've all been saying, because there's just been so many moments and things, being in studio, doing the online stuff, and partnering with hashtag, doing the stuff with Popcorn Talk and all that, and just convention type interviews. But I've always, as you know, been a big Jaws and Back to the Future fan. So anytime we get to talk about those topics are definitely some of my favorite things. So, I mean, when we had the guy who did the documentary Back in Time, talking about Back to the Future, that was definitely one of my favorite shows. A very evergreen show that did pretty well for us online too, which we were very happy about. But I just always loved to talk Back to the Future. Got to talk to Kevin Pike when we were doing the Jaws interviews, which was very cool as well. And he talked about, designing the DeLorean, which you can see behind me over there. But doing those Jaws shows online was definitely the highlight of just doing this whole thing, getting to talk to Carl Gottlieb, Jeffrey Voorhees, and just Jeffrey Kramer and Greg Nicotero, kind of showing a clip of that interview, talking about him doing the restoration of the only remaining mold of the original Jaws shark. It was just so cool. And I just love that movie, love talking about it, and doing that series of stuff was just a blast. And it's going to be hard to top, but I just really love that. And did enjoy when we'd have Jeff Hopkins on. He dressed up like he was retro Batman 1966, and then I'd dress up like Robin with him. So it was just a fun shtick we got to do a couple times when we were back at Popcorn Top. Really loved doing that. And we mentioned the Casa Vega. I'd usually be there in the show, just back on the couch, and then filling Brad in. We're almost done. We're going to go to Casa Vega and get our $6 margaritas and $5 cheese quesadillas and the taquitos. So me mentioning on the earlier show that I was kind of a foodie type person. I loved hanging out with these guys, doing the show, and then going over and celebrating the show and just talking more about what we're doing. And sometimes taking the guests with us was such a good time. And we've mentioned the Power Rangers. We had a lot of them come out to the studio. We've had them online. We've done panels. Thank you to that whole universe for just being so cool. I talked about Robot Chicken and about Adult Swim, but having Power Rangers on a panel is just as lively as those people. You got Brennan doing handstands. You have stories that will just make you laugh, and they're just a big family and just the nicest, sweetest people you'll ever meet. So you just can't top those things. And yeah, I would say those are just a few of the highlights of the many. And one of the biggest joys is just, as you guys have talked about with Ben and Katie, just bringing, and Derek as well, like Jim was already kind of like into the whole fandom thing, and we started the Con Guy, but giving you guys kind of a platform to kind of share your nerd voice is probably my biggest joy of doing this whole thing, is giving, and my friend Jake back home, getting to talk about stuff, giving something that can kind of let you share your fandom, and using this as a platform is probably my greatest joy, I'd say, in doing the Con Guy.
I'm so glad you mentioned Jake Lee, who has been one of our great partners on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Luke and Jake grew up. You guys knew each other in kindergarten? Fourth grade. Same thing. Same thing. Schools these days.
There are a lot of fourth graders who are really offended by that comment, Jen.
The Jacoba system.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like, what was cool is pulling Luke in, because Luke is not what you would call a traditional geek nerd. He didn't think he was until we went.
No, he played football in high school.
He played football, but then we went to a Comic-Con and Luke started looking for Batman collectibles. He started looking for like Ninja Turtle collectibles, certain things that he loved. And then on the Con Guy, and Ben, you were a big part of this during right smack in the middle of COVID. And Luke just mentioned this when we did I think it was 10 different episodes on the 45th anniversary of Jaws, one of the biggest movies ever come out, one of our favorite movies. And my favorite part of that whole thing is it Jeffrey Voorhees, who was the boy in the raft. He got eaten towards the beginning of the movie, and he's not dead. He met us on the podcast. He was walking around Martha's Vineyard, and he took us down to the waterfront and showed us where his character was killed.
That was wild.
Then he walked us over to the bridge where the kids were jumping off the bridge. And, so far that video, it's like 8,000 or 10,000 people have logged in to watch that particular interview. That was amazing. That was an amazing time. And the Jaws episodes were just so cool. Because we were all stuck at home during COVID. We found something to bring us some joy, and something about this podcast. And Luke was talking about it. It's so great. And it was so cool because all of us we got our nerd credentials. Let's just put it that way. Luke didn't so much, but he's earned them because he is a big collector. Almost everything you see around us has been collected by Luke Cheeseman. Anyways, Ben,
I would say, to end this show, I want to bring up one of our most famous / infamous moments.
Notorious.
We were saving this for last. Yep.
On the Con Guy.
Got our biggest views of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's infamous / famous.
Yep. Infamous.
So we had this guy on our show, and I'll recap what I remember about this, and then I can let Jim and Luke defend themselves, because what I remember about it is one night Jim and Luke were drinking at a Buffalo Wild Wings,
as we are ought to do,
and they met a guy also drinking at a Buffalo Wild Wings who told them, hey, I was in The Last Jedi.
It's not exactly how it went
And
down.
they
I think.
hold on.
Yeah.
And then Jim and Luke said, we have a show, you should be on it. And then this particular individual, his name was,
For the record, he didn't tell us. The bartender.
the
told us.
bartender. The bartender tells you this guy was a stuntman on The Last Jedi. And you guys tell him, hey, you need to come on our show, The Con Guy. And he says, sure. So he comes on, gives us all this apparently inside information.
We did check him out on IMDb.
Yeah.
He did have a credible IMDb profile.
And it does take some credentials. Like, I don't know fully how that works, but you've got to have an IMDb IMDb Pro account to make edits on there.
Yes.
And often you have to actually show some proof before you can just give someone credit on a film, especially
true.
something like a Star Wars movie.
So we have this guy on the show. We do a whole episode where he like shares apparently what he claims is like behind the scenes information about The Last Jedi and all this kind of stuff,
Including an alternate ending.
And then didn't we start just getting like dragged on social media? Is that
What happened was the company, Popcorn Talk, Kevin, God bless them all, because they took a lot of barbs on this one. I
did.
went to work. Luke, we all went to work. Then all of a sudden, Ryan and Steven started texting us saying, hey, is what this guy said true? I'm like, why? He goes, because we put a little clip online and we got like 200,000 hits on it of people talking about this. And we're like, oh, really? And then we start finding out that people are disputing what he says, including the brand new Chewbacca from the film Star Wars says, who's this Joker? and starts dragging us, at which point we're like, huh. So me and Cheeseman, we call, no answer, because he was on. Well, no, I talked to him. I said, hey, we're having some problems. He was on set somewhere in a desert. Like, what's
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I said, what's going on? He goes, oh, don't worry about that. I'll send you some stuff. His IMDb starts deleting right at that moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no. Here we got snookered. So bad.
The con guy, and I believe the headline was "The Con Guy Got Conned."
Yeah.
It was
The conned guys.
we were conned.
And this was a whole dozen eggs on our face.
Well, not only that, like he had said that he was a stuntman on the movie.
He was one of the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, he
That's
claimed
what
he
he
was.
claimed. And we had actual silver lining of this.
I think Ben was
terrible
getting to
situation
that. Yeah.
Was that
Well,
stunt people from the movie were like, "This isn't true."
Well, yeah. So all this blows up online, right? And we're embarrassed. We're like, oh my gosh, this guy, like Jim said, I believe the technical term is schnookered us. And
It's
we
a
don't
nice way of saying
we don't
it.
know what to do about this. And then by the grace of God, these two people reach out to us. And Katie, who were they?
Anton Simpson, who is a true Knight of Ren, and Katie McDonald, the stunt double for Daisy Ridley.
So Anton and Katie reach out to us at the Con Guy, two people who are documented and definitely a part of the Star Wars franchise
Yeah,
and
I
the
guess
stunt community.
Better documented.
Better documented.
Can I just say this? Remember the trailer when Rey was running, a TIE fighter was coming for her, and she jumps up in the air and does a big flip backwards?
Right.
That was Katie.
There
That
we
was
go.
Katie.
So they, God bless them, reach out to us and they say, hey, we saw what happened. We understand this guy schnookered you. I believe that's the term they used.
Schnookered.
And they said, we would love to come on your show and talk about actually working on the movie.
God bless
Actually
them. That was
working
amazing.
on Star Wars. And they did. They came on our show and they
Yeah.
were delightful. They were wonderful. They were
great.
beautiful people that came on and gave us all kinds of fun stories and experiences that they had while working on a freaking Star Wars movie. And it just was another fantastic, wonderful, beautiful moment from being on this show and being a part of this family and I will never forget it as long as I live. As long as I live.
It was probably the biggest moment ever on our show. You know what's sad?
Yet.
The biggest moment up until that point of our show was us getting snookered. But that was fun. And I got to say, just for the lawyer's sake, this particular person, delete his name. I have a feeling he just got caught up in the moment. I guess.
Maybe he is the sort of guy who had like bragged to some girl at the bar.
Yeah.
And the bartender believed him. And somehow he was able to get some stuff on IMDb that.
But why would he
checked.
come on our show and
he still did it because he leaned into it? I don't know.
I mean,
maybe he was not in his right mind. Maybe he genuinely believed those things he said.
For the record, we've never seen him again.
Yeah.
Never seen him. And we've looked for him.
It's possible he got to the point where he's like, I'm in too deep. I got to keep going with it. You know,
but thank you so much, Anton and Katie, for jumping in and doing that.
You know what? That was such a good thing. It was such a great thing that they came on our show.
That was really awesome of them. And, you know, maybe the real Knights of Ren were the friends we made along the way.
That's right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, he's, she's, and theys of all kinds, all of you out there in internet land who have been watching our ridiculousness here on this show, we thank you all so much for sticking with us through 200 episodes. And I know you have all been watching each and every single one of those 200 episodes.
Every moment, every minute.
I haven't watched all the 200 episodes. But you know what, folks? Here is to 200 more of the Con Guy. Let's do a quick cheers to that before we say adieu to you, Cheese
Man behind the camera over there.
Jim, where can people find you online?
People can find me at theconguy.com, on Instagram at James D. Fry.
That's Frye.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
I'm Katie, aka Katie Christine, across all of social media, including Twitch, which I'm hopefully getting back to, but very inactive at the moment. But I am most active on Twitter and
X.
Well, I still call it Twitter. I just cannot call it X.
Instagram, TikTok,
TikTok, and Instagram and Twitter. But Twitter's mostly just K-pop content, as is TikTok. So, but yeah, you can find me.
Katie's obsessed.
You can just find me on TikTok and Twitter, basically just rambling about whatever going through my head. So that's what you should follow if you like things like that.
And just to clarify, I believe that's the letter K, the letter T,
yes,
underscore
Christine with a C.
Christine with C, CHRISTINE.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
And also, sorry, I need to shout out the Con Girls and Danae.
Yes.
So we do have our sister network, the Con Girls, which has been a little bit inactive recently, but we are trying to think of some new fun content for you. And the Con Girls is our network for talking about things from a female perspective and topics that are more female driven.
It's not necessarily been inactive as much as they're getting ready to start their new season.
Yes, correct.
There you go. And Derek, where can we find you?
Yeah, howdy, y'all. You can find me on X and Instagram at ConGuyDerek. And again, if you want to get involved with foster care or supporting foster kids or resource families, look at advokids.org or fosterall.org.
Luke, where can we follow you if we desire so?
You can find me on Instagram and X at CheeseOnCouch and theconguy.com. Keep following us. Keep watching the shows. Listen to us. Watch us. See us at the cons. The Con Guy.
All right. And once again, I just want to say congratulations to all of us. If I can toot our own horn a little bit. Congratulations on 200, now 201 episodes of The Con Guy. Congratulations on 8 years of The Con Guy and almost as many Comic-Cons, as well as Power Ranger panels, fake Knights of Ren, real Knights of Ren, all of the above. What an exciting 8 years it's been. And I am happy to toast to the next 8 years and the next 200 episodes of The Con Guy. Ladies and gentlemen, they, he, she's,
y'all.
She's, and theys, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all out there, thank you so much for watching the show. And be sure to follow us at theconguy.com. My name is Ben Cleaver. You can follow me on all social media at BENKLIEWER. And I'm toasting with this red cup. What was that, Derek?
Oh, Ben, why are you drinking out of that red cup?
Because whenever Ben Cleaver shows up, it's always a party. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Thanks for watching The Con Guy. the official program of theconguy.com. Find us on the Weeby Geeks Collective or anywhere you listen to podcasts.